Hello, hello, and welcome back. We are on episode 9, and
9.
we've had the holidays and we had a break in January, and now we're back for episode number 9, which is money, guilt, and wealth shame, healing the emotional sabotage that keeps you under earning. And this one, we were both just saying, is whoa, it's going to be a good one. It's going to be really, really
Yes,
good.
it is. It
So,
is. It is.
how are you doing, Lisa? How are things going?
You know what? It's going. I'm ready for the year of the horse. So I think I'm looking forward to February the 17th.
Well, it's so interesting.
I kind of got a
I
little
work.
disappointed that it didn't start January 1st. They were like, "Oh, it's gonna be the year
Yeah,
of the horse," and then they go, "Oh, technically it doesn't start." Really? Why did you do
I know.
that?
It's so interesting, right? So anybody who follows this stuff knows a lot about it. I kind of on the cusp. I learn a little bit, and I
Right.
work with somebody. She's a manifestation expert, and her and I are doing a collab together. It's amazing. But she was saying to me, "Yeah, January is all about rest, and when it kicks off for the year of the horse in February." And I'm just like, wait a minute, what? I thought it started at, and she's like, no. And I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, so it's this excitement of February to be the year of the horse. So
February
we'll
the
be good.
17th to be exact. I was
Yeah.
like,
Which is
you mean I
basically
got
when
a whole month and a
January,
half? They
yeah,
go like,
when
because you're still
January
in the year
feels,
of the snake. You're still doing the shedding and resting. And I'm like, people, I'm done with all the shedding. I've done all the shedding. We're through.
yes. Yeah. Well,
I'm
especially because I
like,
feel like January is like 150 months in one month, right? Like it just feels
mm-hmm.
like it's forever. So then it actually feels like it's forever to get to the year of the snake. But that is not what we're talking about today, guys. We're not talking about the year of the snake. However, or the year of the horse. However, what we are talking about is healing that emotional sabotage because it is something
That's
that we
right.
are really, really excited to talk about, not because it's necessarily the best and funnest topic to talk about, but it is something we talk about with money guilt. And so, Lisa, tell us a little bit about the wealth truth bombs that go with wealth shame and money guilt.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Money guilt is it's a weight, right? It's a weight on our past choices, on your past choices, family patterns, beliefs, the beliefs that tell us that we're doing it wrong, and that's wrong for us to want more, or that we're not doing enough, or whatever those things are. And then you add wealth shame to it, or money shame to it. And that's what creeps in when we start making that money and secretly we feel like we don't deserve it. I've been there. Like part of 2024. 2023, I started making good money, and then some of that shame came in, or question of do it. And what we don't realize is we put that guilt and then we start blocking, um, which is why it was kind of interesting that it was the year of the snake, because that's where the shedding and all these things, and you're letting go of what no longer serves you. So that's part of that money guilt, and that money shame doesn't serve you.
Yeah, and we often say guilt and shame is like the quiet thieves of wealth, right? They show up as overgiving, undercharging. We've all been there, people pleasing, and then before we know it, we're broke but very busy. And I think when it comes to this specific topic, right? We all know, I've said this over and over again in my many years that I'm doing online, is like, oh, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy. But what is it that's busy, that's making the money, that's coming in, that doesn't have that guilt and shame over it? And women especially, Lisa, right? Like, let's talk about that. Women especially fall into this.
Yeah, because I mean, we're taught to feel bad of wanting more, right? Um, but the thing is guilt it's not noble. It doesn't make us better people. To me, it's a profit leak. In my opinion, it's a profit leak because it blocks us from actually looking at what can actually generate money and what can make money, and us doing those things. And instead, we stick around doing the little things. Oh, we were busy today, but we were in our heads instead of actually doing something to make money. And so it doesn't build generational wealth. Instead, energy is leaking, which again is a profit leak.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, our wealth lie comes from this. So the lie today is, if I feel guilty or ashamed about money, it means I'm being humble or realistic. And I think this could land for every single person listening to this because it is such a powerful concept. But I think, how do you feel about that? Tell me how you feel about that
In a
statement right there.
nutshell, no. In a nutshell, no, no, and no. Guilt isn't humility. it's self-sabotage wrapped in social conditioning, wrapped in whatever we were taught when we were younger by our parents, by our society, by whoever. And it's honest to goodness, it's what's keeping your income smaller than your potential. It's one of the things I had to realize is that I was actually helping stop my keep I was helping keep my income smaller than what my potential was, right? And when we do that, we just basically stay on this circle and we don't go anywhere.
Yeah. And it's, shame doesn't make us any more responsible or any less responsible. And I think, it comes from this idea that we shrink instead of
Mhm.
expand, right? And if you can't manifest in that expansion, right, you can't do it from a small place or a shrink place or a guilt place or a shame place. We have to be in a place where, we are open. And I think when it comes to, this idea of being humble or realistic, it really does keep us small, because just because you may want more money or you want to do more things with money doesn't mean it should be a bad thing, right? And I know you and I feel like if we watched your podcast from like God 3 years ago, whenever I was a guest on your podcast, we talked a
Two
little
years
bit
ago.
about this. 2 years ago, because I remember saying, there was a time and a place where I used to say, oh, I would never buy, the Prada shoes and the big house and anybody who would spend money that way. And it was like a spiral of this, like, just ugh, when it comes to money. And it didn't make me a better person. It just is a different concept, right? It doesn't mean one is better than the other. It doesn't mean that I want to spend my money on travel while somebody else wants to spend their money on Jimmy Choo shoes. Neither is right, neither is wrong. But when we
Right.
feel that way, it keeps us very small.
Right. Well, and the thing is too is you got to remember you're allowed to forgive yourself. We so easily forgive other people, but we won't forgive ourselves for past mistakes. And that's one of the things that I tell my clients all the time is you'll forgive such and such and you'll forgive this, but why won't you forgive yourself for this past mistake? Well, no, forgive yourself because what you're doing is you're holding yourself back by not forgiving yourself. You're allowed to want more and you're allowed to change your relationship with money and be able to hold money, even more money than you've ever held before, without apology. You have to forgive yourself and not let that hold you back.
Yeah, and I love this because it segues really nicely into, of course, the AI images that I talk a lot about and how we can rewire our identity. So on my vision board for
Hmm.
2026, I have a picture of me holding a ton of money in my hand, which for the longest time I would
Oh,
have
I'm so
turned my
jelly
nose
because
up.
I've been wanting that.
But like for the longest time, I would have turned my nose up at that and been like, ugh, right? Like, you don't need to flaunt your money. You don't need to, like, all of these stories that we would tell in our head, the past money stories, right? If you flaunt your money, it means that you're not a good person. If you spend your money on stuff that I don't think is good, means you're not a good person. But AI helps me really see the version of me that already has released all that, right? I no longer sit and think, oh my gosh, what about this? What about this? And actually, I was talking to somebody the other day about this, and this is it hit me so hard. I was like, oh my gosh. So now imagine you're in a traffic jam and somebody cuts you off. Okay. And this is a really, really important part. If they cut you off and they're in a Lamborghini or a Lexus or some, quote unquote fancy car, how do you feel about that person? Now, if somebody cuts you off and they're in like a Honda Accord or some other, regular car, I guess, does it change the way you feel? And that's the money stories we're talking about, right?
That
And
makes
that's
sense
and
because
so
either way,
for
you're going to
a
be mad because they cut you off.
right. Right. But are you being like, oh, that person with the Lamborghini is blah, blah, blah. Right. And I found myself for years really feeling that. And so when I was creating these AI images, right, I wanted to create this powerful person, this identity of myself, who I was becoming. But I realized that some of those money stories were still in place. And so that's why I have the money in my hands. And I just think it makes it such a big difference because it actually allows you to see the version of you, right? That's already got that. Like, I might not be perfect. There still might be times where I will make a comment about something, but I catch myself and I see myself in that vision, that AI version of me, and I'm
Mhm.
able to kind of work with it. So it's
Yeah.
just really, really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, because it's you holding the money or picturing you confidently receiving money, which would be part of that. Right? You're confidently receiving the money because you're holding it. You're smiling while you're checking your bank account, holding a check without feeling like a fraud, relaxing on a vacation, being out on some island and there's a picture of you sitting there just relaxing. It can shift your inner narrative, right? I mean, my vision board from 2025 was the vacation, was me doing hikes, was me standing in my backyard. And I still have that up right now because those are still some of the important things to me. So it can shift your narrative. And I think that sometimes shifting our inner narrative is what's so important.
Yeah. And I think, we talk a lot about it not being the pretty pictures only. It's about that nervous system regulation. And we've obviously done a whole episode, I think, on this with regards to visualization, AI, how it can help you retrain that emotional response to money. But I also, because I love AI, of course, AI imaging, but I also really encourage people to do other, we do visual, but now what about audible and all of these things? Like money hits my bank account now, and I don't care if it's 2 cents or 21 cents or whatever it is, $2,000. I have a song and I have a dance,
Dance.
and everybody in my
I
family
dance.
now, right? Everybody in my family, even my kids that are just like, I have two teenage daughters, and they're like, this is the weirdest thing. I'm like, yeah, well, this is what's funding our adventure. So you're going to dance with us. And so every time we put the song on and, the dances are happening. So now not only are you seeing it, but you are also dancing to it or smiling at it or whatever. And that's the emotional response to money. And that is a positive thing, right?
Mhm.
As long as it's a positive thing, then we are rewiring that. It's when it gets to
Right.
that like, ugh, or oh no, or whatever, some of those negative things. And I know you and I have talked about this before, a bill comes in, ugh, right? Or something happens, ugh, right? Those are the negative responses. But now if we're trying to rewire that to make it positive, you can't, I mean, the song that I have is absolutely ridiculous. We dance. My girls now are like all over the place. My husband does it too. Like it's fun. It makes us laugh. And now everybody feels a little bit different about what happens when money hits, right?
Mhm.
So it's just
Mhm.
a very different response. And I think it's super, super important to remember that moving into 2026.
Yeah, and it's also important to remember that things are going to happen that sometimes are going to sneak up to you and make you react differently. I mean, I'll be fair honest, I've had to have a procedure and with insurance, yes, I have a bill that we won't even discuss and it's hot in the high thousands and I caught myself. You remember I told you I was like I am having to stop and I'm having to take deep breaths and reframe how I'm looking at this because I had the insurance. Thank goodness. I was able to have the procedure. Thank goodness. I'm healthy. Thank goodness. And this will be taken care of however long it takes to be taken and not looking at it as something that's holding me back. But at first, it seeped in and that was the first thing that came into the brain because that's just a lot of times that's just the way we're conditioned. And so we have to bring out those tools and remind ourselves no, we're not going into that scarcity. No, that's not how we're going to think. We're not going to stop ourselves.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to remember, and Lisa and I are very open and transparent about this, is that even though wealthy Queen Lisa and myself, who talks a lot about AI imaging and mindset, we're not perfect, right? And we have moments. And the
Far
most
from it.
important thing, the most important thing I think, that we really try to get across with speaking to you, to the audience here is that, you can still have moments, right? You can still
Mhm.
have the negative feelings. You can still have the self-sabotage. You can still have those things. But if you can catch it quicker, like Lisa just said, if you can catch yourself a little bit quicker, that is still a win, right? It's still a
And don't
win.
get
And
stuck in it. And don't
sometimes,
get stuck
yeah,
in it.
and exactly. And sometimes it's like, Lisa saying something to me and me saying, okay, take a moment, have your moment, but let's move on. Right. And again, that's not to do anything other than we understand as human beings, we are going to feel certain things.
Right.
But once we get out of that, then that's where we really shine. So just keep that in mind. It is not about perfection. It's just really getting to that feeling, noticing it. Awareness always comes first. And then how do you get out of it? And that's really
Right.
going to be the key. All
Yeah.
right. In this segment, we always do fix my finances. So this is actually questions that come in from the viewers, people who we work with, and we answer them for you. So if you have a question that you would love us to have featured on the show, please drop us a message in the show notes, whichever channel you're watching it on, if it's Lisa or myself. But this is the question. I feel guilty raising my prices or making big purchases. It feels like I'm being greedy or irresponsible. How do I stop second guessing everything?
Ooh.
Yeah.
First, start by asking yourself whose voice is that guilt coming from? Because it's
Mm,
probably not yours. Okay. It's probably, again, from growing up, society, someone around you, and then release what was never yours to carry to begin with. One of the things I have recognized and saw is that some of the things that I was feeling guilty about were never mine. They were
mhm.
just what I'd seen or heard or whatever as growing up. So be honest with yourself and ask yourself. And y'all, I believe being wealthy is different than being rich, right? Wealthy doesn't make you greedy. Honest to goodness, it gives you options. And those are options I want.
Mm.
And, and AI plays a thing into that. So I mean, Lindsay, how about explain to them how it goes into that? Because I believe it plays a part into that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I'll give you a quick example of my own. Like I said, Lisa and I like to keep it real. I come from a single mom family, divorced family, and we never had any money. And so frugal was the name of the game. You had to be. And I remember my mom always saying, "Do you need to spend money on that?" Right. And as a teenager, I wanted a pair of Doc Martens. Do you need to spend money on that? I wanted to, go to wherever. Do you need to spend money on that? And that came with me for so many years. And as I said, not perfect, it still happens. So, one of the things that I have on my AI vision board is me sitting in a pair of really nice, expensive, comfy pajamas. Because do I need to spend money on it? Hell no, I don't. Do I want to? And do I get to? Yes. And
Yes.
that's the biggest difference, right? It's receiving money will bring you joy. You can also use it to help others. You can also have a better life. You can share with your kids, your family, whatever. And I just think you need to remember that if you can retain your identity from I'm not taking too much to I'm worthy of the overflow, that's massive. Right. And, even now when I'm trying to think, like, if I look at this image of myself, which is on my phone, how much would I have spent on these pajamas that I just absolutely love? And I think about it, I'm like a few $100s. That's kind of my thing. And even that to some people might be like, oh, that's nothing. And to other people that might be like, oh my gosh, that's way too much. So again, it comes back to you and what
Mm-hmm.
you're worthy of, because would I pass Lindsay spend $100 or more than $100 on a pair of fluffy pajamas? The answer was absolutely no, because my mom's voice is, do you need to spend money on that? Right. But as you work into this and welcome money in and be a part of who you are as this money is worthy to
Mm-hmm.
me, then you can buy the things that you want. And I mean, again, splurge on certain things, oh, nice, pajamas, and then maybe share money in other ways and stuff like that. So the AI image really helps me specifically and so many of my clients get into that feeling of worthiness of that, taking, not having too much, being in a place where I can enjoy the money that I have, right? We all run businesses. A lot of our audience, they're entrepreneurs. We do it, of course, because we want to support people and do all those other things, but we also want to make money, right? It's a business. We want to make money. And with money, you have choice. With choice, you have decisions and all of those beautiful things. So I just
Yeah.
think it's really, really powerful to have the AI image to help you with that.
Yeah. And here's the thing. You get to set new rules. So
Mm-hmm.
set the new rules. And one of the things that I've remind myself and my clients is you get to thrive and be responsible. You can live life now and save for the future. You get to charge more and still be in integrity, right? Guilt isn't the gateway to being a good person. Alignment is. And as long as you're in alignment and you're doing those things, then set your new rules.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, we always have a challenge for you guys at the end of these
Always.
episodes. And this week, we want you to name one money memory. So similar to what I just shared with you is, you don't need to spend money on that. This is my mom in my ear, right? A money memory that still brings up some guilt or some shame. So journal on it, release it and replace it with a new truth. And this is the hardest part, right? Then, if you have access to AI or you are interested, reach out to me, create a visual of you making that bold, guilt-free money move.
Mm.
And it is a huge, huge, huge opportunity for you to change and become this person that doesn't necessarily have that little voice in your head. And as I said, I shared my experience. Lisa has many that I'm sure she could tell you about if you have questions about it. But the idea really is to replace that guilt and shame with something that is going to make you this nice money move that feels good for you. And everybody's is going to be different. Everybody's is going to be different.
Yeah. And you know, if you're wanting more information on how to create the AIs, her membership is the bomb. I'm in there. I love it. I still haven't played around with it enough to feel comfortable enough for me to create things. However, she's got all kinds of stuff in there for you to learn. And so you can drop release in there in the comments, and you can get more information for joining the membership or book a free wealth alignment call with me. And that way you can get some help on clearing the emotional clutter that's been sabotaging your next financial level, and be able to see the person that future self that you're wanting to be and that you deserve to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And so takeaways for today, guys, is really that you can't build a lasting wealth from guilt. It's impossible, right? There are so many studies behind it. You can build it from releasing the shame, rewriting your money story, and embodying the version of you who feels safe receiving, holding, and enjoying the abundance of money. And that is what we hope that you take away from this episode.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And we always give a teaser for next month. Mm-hmm. So next time, we're turning the heat up a little bit, and we're talking about the all or nothing trap with money. Why you go from not saving at all or trying to save everything overnight, and how to finally create a sustainable, sexy rhythm with your finances, with your money.
No, it's going to be so good. It's going to be
so wait.
good. All right. Well, guys, as always, we would love your questions. If you have any to put them in the comments, or you can, to speak to us either separately on Facebook, whatever, definitely let us know. But we will, as always, see you next month for another episode.
Yeah. Absolutely. Bye.
Bye, guys.